Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today I'd like to talk about the Bill of Rights as I understand them. I'd like to start with reviewing some of the things that we talked about before. Previously, we talked about how the Constitution came and how the Bill of Rights came about. As you recall, the Treaty of Paris was signed in 1783, ending the American Revolution and giving the colonies the freedom that they fought for. Even before then, for a period of time from 1781 to the signing of the Constitution, the colonies and the country was not run by the government as we have it today, because the executive branch, judicial branch, and the legislative branch did not exist. So for a long period of time, even after gaining the independence, the Americans did not have the government as we have it. But it was not that there was no governing body and that there was no constitution. That there was, and that was called the Articles of Confederation, as you recall. So the Articles of Confederations, or the rules or laws of the Confederation, and we suggested what that term intimates, basically was the Constitution of the country from 1781 to 89. And as we have also talked about before, the Articles of Confederation did not give the federal government the authority needed to carry out its various functions. And the two great weaknesses were, number one, that it could not tax the states, and without revenue, really you can't really do anything. And it could request the states for money, but then the states would be hardly obliging. Another problem with the Articles of Confederation was that it did not allow the federal government sufficient military strength capabilities, and this became quite evident with Shays' Rebellion in 1786-87, and then which was eventually put down, but it brought to light the fact, the weakness of the federal government. So everybody began to realize that a stronger central government was necessary, and the Articles of Confederation had to be revised, and this resulted in the Constitutional Convention and eventually the new Constitution that was written. As we have talked about before, the Constitution Convention occurred in 1787, and the people who gathered there are known as the Founding Fathers, and George Washington was elected to preside over the convention. And as we have also talked before, the initial idea was to revise the Articles of Confederation. However, after consideration, they said that a new constitution probably would be more appropriate. The new constitution basically outlines the job descriptions of the three branches of the government: the executive branch, the legislative branch, the executive branch, and the judicial branch. And we have previously outlined the rights and responsibilities of each of these branches of the government, and the form of the government is characterized by, as we have talked about before, separation of power into these different branches, and the fact that each one of them has certain checks and balances, and balances the power of the other branches. So we have talked about this in considerable detail. What the Constitution does not do, and this was a great concern for many, is that it does not protect the rights of the individual. It defines the job descriptions of these entities, the three branches of government, and gives them the certain amount of substantial authority. However, nowhere in there really says that the rights of people are discussed. So that was concerning to many, including James Madison, who's typically known as the father of the Constitution. Madison proposed even back then at the Constitution Convention that there be certain rights of the individuals be protected. However, that did not come to fruition, and he had to give up that idea. the most important job at their hands at the time was to create a more stronger federal government, and this resulted in formation of two distinct groups of people: the Federalist and the Anti-Federalist. James Madison, Alexander Hamilton, and John Jay leading the former group, and they eventually prevailed, and the Constitution was adopted. However, the Constitution was adopted on a promise that there would be amendments made to it or additions made to it in the near future, guaranteeing the rights of the individual. So, guaranteeing the rights of the people. So, there was a promise made that there would be amendments added to the Constitution, guaranteeing the rights of the people. And this came to be known as the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights are amendments to the Constitution, and the first 10 amendments to the Constitution are known as the Bill of Rights. And they were really penned by James Madison, and it is to his exceptional credit that we must thank for in being the proponent and basically being the author and the genius behind the Bill of Rights. So this is how the document looks, and I like to briefly go over the individual Bill of Rights. This is quite remarkable to me, is if you just compare the Constitution as a document and the Bill of Rights as a document, they're entirely very different things. The Bill of Rights is essentially about the freedoms that are enjoyed by the people. The Constitution that the Americans are rightly proud of is quite an interesting document in itself. But however, if people appreciated the Bill of Rights, they would possibly be more attached to it, because that's where the rights of an individual person like you and I are guaranteed. And it is worth time to studying this in detail. So if you allow me undivided attention the best you can, I would really appreciate it, because this is really, really important to understand. All the freedoms that Americans cherish and tout they are referring really to the Bill of Rights. So let's go through these individually, the 10 of them, in plain English, that is. So the First Amendment to the Constitution, the word amendment, mind you, it has a suggestion that it is a change in the Constitution, but a change to improve. When you make amends with a certain individual, you try to improve your relationship. So the amendments are not corrections to the Constitution per se. Amendments are improvement to the Constitution. That's an important, I think, concept to appreciate. Nevertheless, the First Amendment is the following. It guarantees the freedom of religion, speech, press, assembly, and petition. Now, each of these words is important to appreciate in itself. So the freedom of religion, meaning that Congress cannot make a law about religion or stopping individuals from practicing their religion or keeping them from saying or publishing what they want, such as a newspaper or a book. Now, look how much is contained in this First Amendment. Freedom of religion. So Congress cannot stop people from praying. The reason you and I can pray in public and salat, whether it be at airports or masjid, is because of this First Amendment, because Congress cannot make a law prohibiting individuals from practicing their religion. Right next to that, mind you, in the same amendment is the freedom of speech and press. The reason is because if people cannot articulate their speech, and press, newspapers and books, are really written speech. So speech and press are, in other ways, same aspect of human endeavor. They're communicating thoughts. That's why speech and press is so important, because people need to have discourse. Because if the government is doing something against the people need to talk about it. People need to communicate their idea. For the same reason, I believe the press, now which presently includes outlets such as the television, the internet, etc., they have a responsibility in protecting and being the medium of of a reasonable discourse about these things. Many times, unfortunately, as you know, the news is sensationalized and current events are sensationalized, which sometimes is dangerous and can harm the process of protecting these rights of the individuals. Nevertheless, it is noteworthy, please appreciate that the freedom of religion and the speech and press are in the same paragraph because of this close association between protecting this freedom and these rights of freedom of speech and press. And that, I think, is very important because if the government were to prohibit speech, then individuals cannot have discourse, and cannot communicate their ideas amongst themselves. Also, Congress cannot stop people from meeting peacefully for a demonstration. This is very important, right? Of course, meeting peacefully, because when demonstrations show support for a cause, they are visual and a visceral demonstration of people's discontent with certain ideas, and people need to be express that. Okay, and somebody said that you don't believe in democracy if you do not give voice to the opinions to whom that you disagree with. So it's very important to allow people to express their opinion. And also, Congress cannot make any cannot stop people from petitioning the government in making changes. In other words, people have a right to petition the government, to ask the government to make the changes that they want in the Constitution, in the laws of the country. So the First Amendment is so important, it has so much in it, it's worth paying close attention to. So freedom of religion, speech, press, assembly, and petition are all contained in the First Amendment. The Second Amendment gets a lot of press and a lot of talk, and it is the right to keep and bear arms. The right to keep and bear arms. The right to keep means ownership of arms, like weapons, and bear meaning to have it on you, so to speak. So the Second Amendment guarantees this. Why is this so important? Congress can't stop people from having and carrying weapons because they need to be able to defend themselves. If the colonists couldn't do this, they wouldn't be able to stop the British King George. I mean, that's the bottom line. If the government is the only one that has all the weapons, they can become tyrannical. And that was the idea behind this. So Congress cannot stop people from having and carrying weapons because they need to be able to defend themselves. For some of us, like myself, simple home tools are pretty dangerous in themselves. Working on benches, I can hurt myself. But that's just a joke, of course, for you to try to remember this. Question number 3, the amendment number 3, no quartering of soldiers. In other words, the British were notorious for demanding the colonists to quartering soldiers and having them stay. It's kind of giving them a room to live in your house, and no human being really likes that. So they'll say they forbid that nice and squarely. No quartering of soldiers except if there is a war, and even then only if the Congress has passed a law about it. So look at the amazing, it's like Congress has lots of powers. Congress is like the engine behind the laws of the country. And even a president can't say, okay, I'm decided that this is what we're going to do. That since we're in war, we're going to quarter the soldiers in your house. No, Congress has to pass that law, because Congress is the body where discourses occur and people discuss idea and filter out the good from the bad and the bad from the good. So it's very important. That's number 3. Question number 4. Freedom from unreasonable searches and seizures. Seizures is to take stuff. That's how it's used here. Freedom from unreasonable searches and seizures. No one can search an individual's body, home, papers, things, unless they can prove to a judge that they have a good reason to think the individual has committed a crime. So and the police can't just come into person's houses and say, we want to search your house. I don't think so. Where's the warrant? They have to go to a judge, get a warrant to be able to search an individual. This is exceptionally important. Now, I have to bring to attention again, Madison's and his colleagues and his friend, his mentor friend Jefferson. These are the people driving these Bill of Rights, and it is truly a credit to these individuals to put these and demand that they be appended to the Constitution. And look how many beautiful freedoms that they guaranteed in these Bill of Rights. So, and this freedom of unreasonable searches and seizures is so important in that peoples can't be searched, willy nilly, for no reason. People have to understand their rights. That the Constitution guarantees them. The founding fathers found this so important to guarantee in explicit writing such beautiful rights of Americans. Number 5. The right to due process of law, freedom from self-incrimination, and double jeopardy. Now, this is also very, very important. Now, this is the remaining that people say, I take the 5th, meaning they want to be silent about it. So, individuals can't be tried for a serious crime without a grand jury meeting first to decide whether there's enough evidence for a trial. See, let's say if a country ends up with an unfortunate circumstance where they have a tyrant as a president, and the president doesn't like a certain person, and the president and the president says to his cronies, okay, go get this guy. So the cronies go to this person, and they say, we suspect that you're doing this illegal activity, and they arrest him or something like that, and they take him to trial, right? So for trumped up for silly charges, for example, you know what I'm saying? They would be lying, and then they just take the person to trial, and trials are tough. Just the process of taking individuals to trials can be very taxing for them. It can ruin their business, it can ruin their life, it can ruin their marriage, you know what I'm saying? And it can destroy a person. Forget being convicted of it or not. Just the process of trial is very difficult for individuals. So government, if there was a bad government, if it was a tyrant running the show, he could just get rid of individuals, so to speak, by tying up in this process, in this judicial process. So this beautiful right, has the foresight to see stuff like that. Look at this. And an individual cannot even be tried for a serious crime without a grand jury, meaning first to decide whether even there's evidence for a trial. In other words, do you have enough evidence to go after this person? If you don't have enough evidence to go after this person, then don't bother the guy. Leave him alone, right? So that's the idea behind this. Right? You can't just go after people without evidence. The government has to collect evidence before they even take somebody to task. Now, and if the jury decides the individual is innocent, so the person, for example, the government does its job and gathers information, indicts an individual, and that person goes to trial. Okay, if that person is found innocent by the jury, the government cannot try the person again with another jury. For example, if the person is found innocent by the jury, the government says, well, we'll just get another jury, another trial. No, you can't do that, because if you do that, a person will go from a trial to another trial to another trial, and whole life would be destroyed. What's the point in that, right? So government gets one chance to do what they want to do. If the person is found innocent, that's it. They're done. They cannot take the person and try them again for the same crime, for the same for the same accusation for the same trial. So that's so important. Okay, now this part is really the taking the 5th, being silent. An individual does not have to say anything at their trial. This is so important. Why? See, a person that's accused of something, that you can't put them in the witness seat and then start asking the question. Why is that important? They have to say nothing. They can just be quiet, zip it up, so to speak, and they don't have to say anything at their trial. Okay, why is that important? Because see, there are all kinds of human beings. There's a farmer, there's a store owner, there's the lawyers, there's the physicians. There are all kinds of people, and the taxi drivers, right? Now, if you put anybody in the seat, it's a prosecutor or a lawyer can really badger them, harass them, and get them really anxious and riled up and use their emotions against that person. So that's the idea, to protect people, because it's very, very difficult for a person who's accused to sit in that witness seat and answer very difficult questions, and they can incriminate themselves without even knowing that they're incriminating, even if they are innocent. So this is so important, and it's so insightful and so beautiful, and that an individual does not have to say anything at their trial. Very important. They can't be killed, jailed, or fined unless they are convicted of a crime by a jury. People cannot be fined, they cannot be jailed, it can't be done unless they're convicted by a jury. Even if you get a speeding ticket, for God's sake, you can contest that speeding ticket, and you don't have to pay them. If you go to the court and prove yourself that you're innocent or something. It is so really amazing. And the last statement here: the government can't take an individual's house, farm, or any property unless the government pays for it. It is really so important. If the government wants to build, a highway to a certain property, a farmer's house, for example, that's his livelihood. He built it, from scratch and from the sweat of his labor. The government can't say, "I'm sorry, we're going to build a highway through here because it's best for the society, because we really need a highway, and then your property is going to have to go." No, it doesn't work that way. So the government can't take an individual's house from unless they pay for it, right? So if the person doesn't want to sell, too bad. They don't want to sell. So, but then all those people, what are we going to have all of those people, right? And so these are important considerations. But if you allow one person's house to be taken, then the government can take anybody else's house, right? So this is a very, very important right of individuals. And I just also bring to your attention another thing. Look how much is contained in every single one of these Bill of Rights. They're so powerful, and they're so comprehensive and in nature, in what they contain. Moving on. 6. The rights of the accused. So when a person is accused of a crime, when they're accused of a crime, okay, the person who's accused of a crime, they have a right to a speedy and public trial. Speedy meaning this. See, let's say the government gathers information, they accuse a person, okay, and they go to trial. The trial cannot last like 15 years, because the guy is just going to be ruined in that period of time, if it's psychologically, or if not financially, or in both, right? So it has to be a reasonable time frame from the beginning to the end of the trial, okay? And the trial has to be public. There could be no secret tribunals. You know what I'm saying? It can't be hidden in some basement of a government office or something, because people need to see, right, what the government is doing, what's going on, right? If someone is arrested, they have a right to their trial pretty soon, and the government can't jail them without trying them. So if the government can just jail people indefinitely just because they're waiting for a trial, right? And the trial has to be public, so everybody knows what is happening. And the case has to be decided by a jury of ordinary people from the accused area. That's what it says here anyways. The case has to be decided by a jury of ordinary people from the accused area, and they have the right to know what they are accused of. People have the right to know what they're accused of. In other words, people can't be just arrested because we think that you're doing something fishy. We know you're doing something fishy, but we can't tell you what it is right now because, blah, blah, blah. No, a person has the right to know what they are accused of. Okay? And to see and hear the people who are witnesses against them. People have these are the rights of the person who's accused of crimes, right? So they have the right to know what they're accused of. They have the right to see and hear people who are witnesses against them. And because why? Then they hey, this guy's lying. This is what it is. But if you go to Farmer Joe over there, he will prove me that this guy's lying, like etc. Right? So they need to know the person that been accused. They need to know what's going on against them, so to speak, because they can help their own case then. And they have the right to government help them get witnesses. The accused has the right to that the government help them get witnesses. I mean, the government can't just accuse people and then just try them. Government also has to help them get witnesses on their side. I mean, it's really amazing. I mean, the Constitution. Imagine the American Constitution without these Bill of Rights. What would it be? What would happen if Madison and Jefferson and all these people did not fight for these Bill of Rights? I mean, amazing how differently the Constitution would be. To me, it's actually quite unimaginable to just have the Constitution and not have these Bill of Rights. So, and they have the right to a lawyer to help them. Amazing. Everybody can have a law, because some people just don't know the law. They're uneducated. They can't. They're illiterate. So the guy from the street, the junkie from the street, okay, has the same rights as he should, as the richest person in the country, the most educated person in the country, because they're equal before the law. They're citizens, and they need that same respect and attention as anybody else. Okay. Number 7. One also has the right to a jury when it is a civil case. A civil case is a case between two non-government entities. Okay. One has a right to have a jury in a civil case. A law case between two people rather than between individual and the government. That's a civil case. That's number 7. Number 8. Freedom from excessive bail, cruel and unusual punishments. These are terms that are frequently debated. What is cruel and what's unusual? Yeah. So because some people would say, for example, the capital punishment is cruel and unusual, and there's great debate on that. The government can't make an individual pay more than is reasonable in bail, right, or in fines. And if you can't have a parking ticket for like $10,000 or something like that. What kind of ticket is that? And the government can't order cruel or unusual punishments like torture, even the individual is convicted of a crime. Even for a convicted individual, you can't say, okay, you're convicted and you're going to be, and jury has decided you're going to have to execute you, but you're going to be a painful, long execution. No, you can't do that. And 9 and 10 are so important. So important. Listen carefully. Other rights of the people. Other rights. See, this is really quite amazing. Just because these rights are listed in the Constitution doesn't mean that an individual does not have other rights. They put this as an amendment to the Constitution, saying that the fact that we brainstorm these rights doesn't mean that these are the only rights that people have. There are other rights that we have not listed here, that we decided not to list here, but there are other rights that people have. So the government is to never think that the only rights that people have are the rights that are listed in the Constitution and the amendments to the Constitution. This is a stroke of genius to put this here, I think, in my mind. Number 10. And then powers reserved to the states. Anything that the Constitution doesn't say that the Congress can do should be left up to the states or to the people. In other words, it restricts the Constitution, and it kind of like put a framework on the Constitution. It says this is the Constitution. Whatever the Constitution gives the right to the Congress and to the executive legislature, that's it. Whatever else it doesn't, outside of this, those rights belong to the state and to the people. It gives that authority to the people. Anything the Constitution does not say the Congress can do should be left up to the states or to the people. Okay? So, I just want to briefly review these before we finish. I appreciate your patience. Number 1, freedom of religion, speech, press, assembly, and petition. Number 2, right to keep and bear arms. Number 3, no quartering of soldiers. Number 4, freedom from unreasonable searches and seizures. Number 5, right to due process of law. Freedom from self-incrimination and double jeopardy. Number 6, right of the accused persons. Example, right to a speedy and public trial. Number 7, one also has the right to a jury in a civil case. Number 8, freedom from excessive bail, cruel and unusual punishments. Number 9, other rights of the people not listed here. And finally, powers not expressly stated in the Constitution are delegated to states and the people. So I hope you appreciate, as I do, this important document, the Bill of Rights, which is the heart of the civil liberties, the heart of the freedoms that we Americans enjoy. And I really hope you take the time to learn more about them, inshallah, in the future. Until next time, assalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Assalamu alaikum.